Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are going to break down a really powerful framework. It's one that helps us understand both personal growth and community healing, and it's drawn from a model called Bhagavata Dharma.
So let's kick things off with a pretty big question. What's the real link between our own inner peace and, broader social change? Are those two totally separate things, or are they actually connected?
Well, the answer might just lie in this four-part framework. We're going to look at a model that basically gives us a map for connecting those two worlds that can feel so separate, the world inside of us and the world we all have to share.
Okay, let's dive right in. The very first principle is called Brahma bearing, and this is where the framework begins, with you, the individual. You can think of this as the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
So what is it? At its core, it's about a huge shift in how you see things. It's all about moving away from this idea of yourself as a totally isolated, disconnected person, and instead starting to see and feel your deep connection to, well, everything and everyone else.
What's cool is that this isn't just some abstract idea. The framework actually points to practical paths to get there. One is through spiritual practice, like using an 8-syllable mantra to focus your mind. The other, well, it's a classic you probably already know, the archetypal hero's journey. Okay, so if you get your inner path sorted out, what happens next? How does that inner change actually translate to the way you lead and act in the real world?
That brings us right to the second principle, which is called seva. And seva is all about leadership, but a very specific kind of leadership.
Yeah, so seva isn't just, helping people. It's a whole philosophy of servant leadership. The entire point is to empower the people around you, your peers, and build community structures from the ground up. It's designed to be the complete opposite of those old-school exploitative top-down models.
But that begs a pretty big question, doesn't it? If this is how we should lead, why do so many of our communities still struggle with so much infighting and conflict?
Well, that's where the third principle, rasa, comes in. This one is all about the social fabric, the complex, often messy dynamics that happen inside a community.
Rasa gives us a lens to understand why groups can fracture. The idea here is that when a community feels like it's lost its sense of authority and authenticity, it can break apart from the inside, creating something the framework calls a negotiating hierarchy of dominance.
Well, wait a second. What causes these internal fractures to happen in the first place? They don't just appear out of nowhere, right? To answer that, we have to look outside the community.
And that brings us to our fourth and final principle, Vistara. This is where we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the external system that every single community is a part of.
The whole idea behind Vistara is that you just can't understand a community's internal problems without looking at the external pressures it's under. It forces us to ask, how is outside oppression impacting what's happening on the inside?
Okay, so now let's connect all four of these dots. Because they aren't just four separate ideas. When you put them all together, you get this incredible, complete lens for seeing the world.
First, you have Brahma bearing. That's the journey inward, right? It all starts with the self.
Then that inner journey shapes our action outward. That's seva, how we lead and serve others. That leadership then affects the dynamics between us. That's rasa, the health of our community's social fabric. And finally, all of that is happening inside the larger system around us. That's Vistara, the external context that's always there.
So you see how it all connects? It's a map that links the spiritual to the systemic, from your own inner world all the way out to the biggest structures in society. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Where in your world could you apply this lens?